Matt, what do you think about all of this? We're talking about Sasha. We'll start there. Your opinion so far on Sasha, and do you think there is a bit of a learning curve, so to speak, from Europe to the NBA?
Well, first off, Damien, you know better than anybody the learning curve that I went on just to be halfway decent at anything in life. So, but
You've
I
done
agree.
great. Look where you are. You're a TV star now.
Well,
A TV
He's a
star.
TV
You're
star.
Matt George.
I'm not sitting in Kenny Caraway seats at the Golden One Center, but
Well,
I'm getting
none
there.
of us are.
I'm
None
trying to
of
get
us
there.
are.
I'm not driving a spaceship either,
I
D-Lo.
I mean,
So.
Jamie
he's got a
Foxx.
spaceship.
Jamie Foxx is sitting in the Kenny Caraway seats, but I mean, me and you, Matt, that's not.
You lent him tickets, Kenny? That's nice.
That was
I don't know what you guys were talking about. I'm up there with everybody else. Y'all see me all the time.
That's not true. That's not even remotely true. You're making Jazz climb those steps at what, 8 months pregnant or whatever.
that was
Would
9
never-
months. It was like
9 months.
9.5 months.
You're
Ryan was watching the game at that
You're
point.
trying to get Ryan to come. Like, come on, Ryan, get
Yeah.
there. We got a game to watch. No, there absolutely is a learning curve between Europe and the NBA, and actually Sasha has been very vocal about that too. Like when Sasha came in, I was most impressed by in his introductory press conference, and I was trying to make it sound like not like a snotty American way of saying it. Like I was very impressed by how well he was able to articulate, and it wasn't like his English. I meant how well he was able to articulate what he is expecting of the league. And he goes like, the league is going to be faster. I know it's going to be more physical. I know there's going to be concerns on defense. Sasha brings up his defense more than anybody else. When we're talking to Sasha in these media scrums, he's the one referencing defense before we're directly asking him, hey, like, how do you feel about the defense? I mean, we've asked that from time to time, but for the most part, Sasha's the one like, yeah, the defense is going to be something that I'm focusing on and working on. I'm not making any excuses. Like this is so what Sasha is going through is what he's been telling us he's expected to be going through, and he's making no excuses. Like, I have to learn this game. I have to pick it up. I have to adjust, and I have to be ready and capable for it. And it's weird. Like, I'm on this teeter-totter, guys, of like, it's just 2 games, right? Come on, it's just 2 games. Give him the time. But also, man, it's 2 games. And we've seen moments like he gets his opportunity with the starters. One of the first plays of the game, dribble handoff from Domantas Sabonis, step back, drains a 3. It's like, yes, that is what we've been envisioning all offseason. That's perfect. That's easy. That's textbook. I couldn't point to really anything else offensively he did for the rest of the game. And then defensively, he struggled so much that ultimately, if Mike Brown is going to start his season with Vezenkov in the rotation consistently, which at this point I think is less likely than maybe we thought coming into training camp, it was because his offense was so good that it made up for some of the concerns on the defensive end of the floor. That's like something we say a lot about Kevin Huerter. Like Kevin Huerter's three-point shooting and spacing is so good that we can put aside some of his defense. And last night he was, I thought, just as bad defensively as Sasha Vezenkov was. Both of those guys are getting blown by nearly every possession, and the Lakers were coming after them almost every single possession, and it was working. But Sasha's offense is not enough right now to make up for the fact that defensively he's getting targeted every single time down the floor. And Mike Brown prepared us for that. He said they're going to be coming at him every time, and we need to prepare him for that. So this is where you want him to learn. It's the preseason. But as you guys know, like the Sacramento Kings, once game 1, less than 2 weeks from now in Utah hits, like the Kings can't afford to ease Sasha along. They're trying to win basketball games game 1 through game 82 and into the playoffs.
Yeah, right now I think he'll be fine, man. I think I'll be fine. I understand the current concerns and what everybody's worried about, but I think he'll be fine, especially when you have. I just go back to, when you have 34 minutes of De'Aaron Fox, 32, 34 minutes of Domantas Sabonis, probably another 30 for Keegan Murray, Harrison Barnes. I think he'll be fine. He'll be around enough of these high level guys where I think he'll be fine. I mean, I look at guys like.
But what's that mean? Like you keep saying he'll be fine. He'll be fine. He'll be fine.
Just be a regular player out there doing stuff. He's not going to be looked at as a liability. He's not going to be looked at as somebody that's holding him back on either end of the floor. He's going to be a part of the game, a part of the offense. If he's making his shots and making his reads correctly on the defensive end, the team will be playing well. If not, they'll struggle. The same way we look at Trey Lyles. You know, if
Okay.
he's hitting and rebounding and
Yeah.
everything, everything's good.
Mhm.
If he's not, man, we got to go to the next option because you don't have it tonight. Not the NBA is overwhelmed, Trey Lyles. You know what I mean? Like I don't think we'll look at Sasha like that.
See that.
Casey D'Lo, tell me, like, how do you feel about Sasha as a 3? Because he's been getting a lot of time at the 3, and I'm not feeling it. I thought his only spot was really as a 4, and maybe Mike is testing him as a 3 because JaVale's not going anywhere and Trey Lyles isn't going anywhere. So if you're going to work in the second unit, it's going to have to be as a 3 at times. Although, granted, he's still doing a lot of his hockey lineups with 5 starters and 5 bench guys, not necessarily as staggered. It was a little more staggered last night, but I'm not feeling Sasha as a 3.
I'm not. I don't like it either. I mean, I think they might try some stuff just to get him his minutes, but ideally, I think he's, a 4. And I think that's where he should be at. And also on the defensive end, that's the type of guys he should be guarding. And seeing him out on the perimeter on defense is something that looks odd a lot of the time. So in a perfect world, he'd be playing the 4, Trey Lyles the 5. But like you said, JaVale McGee looks like he's going to be somebody that's going to be part of this rotation on a nightly basis. So you got to try and find some minutes from him somewhere. And I think that's what they're experimenting with right now to see if that's something that's a possibility. And if they don't like what they're seeing, I don't think they'll just use it just to force him in there. Just that's what I thought.
I'm fine doing it now in the preseason. I was really surprised that's what we saw on Sunday. I don't think we saw that last night. I don't know if anybody remember that. I don't feel like we saw.
Nah, not as much. I didn't think.
Did we see it at all?
Vezenkov playing the 3?
Yeah.
No, he definitely got some stretches.
I'm thinking about some of the defensive.
No, because they threw the bench lineup out there that I was curious to see, which was the Mitchell Monk backcourt with Lyles, McGee, and Sasha. They had that 5 out there for a little while, and that was the team that I think ended the third quarter, if I'm not mistaken.
My stream might have been buffering, so please forgive me. I'll have to catch it here on the NBA TV replay. Regardless, if you want to try it now, it was something I was surprised to see and not something that I particularly loved. But again, if Mike has an idea for that, then fine. There are other things that I'd like to see first. Like I'd like to see the small ball Trey Lyles 5 that we saw a lot in the Warriors series. I'd like to see that. I understand JaVale, it appears, has a really important place on this team. All down for that as well. There's room for Sasha somewhere. The 3 just, I don't know, because one thing I'm concerned about, Matt, is I just don't know that if he's going to be in the same type of shape that Malik and Davion and Trey and De'Aaron and Domas and all those guys are going to be in. So it's hard to envision what these non sweeping lineup changes will look like when it's Davion in for De'Aaron, but there's 4 other starters out there. And then, one more starter exits, but De'Aaron comes back, and then you make another 2, where there are starters always out there to kind of help with the process a little bit and put the best, lineup forward. It's hard to envision what that version with Sasha Vezenkov looks like, what that version of the Sacramento Kings looks like with Sasha Vezenkov. Maybe it makes a lot more sense than the idea of JaVale, Trey, and Sasha at the 3 with Davion and Malik.
That's why I feel like it's such a big talking point now. Like Sasha Vezenkov has been the talk of the training camp and offseason and preseason to this point. And that's fine. Like get out of the way, focal point, exciting EuroLeague MVP. What can he provide the Sacramento Kings? Most are touting him as the biggest addition the Kings made this offseason. But once we get to actual regular season basketball, where you're going to have Mike Brown's top 8 guys playing a healthy amount of minutes, maybe a 9 sneaks in there, and sometimes maybe a 10th man sneaks in there from time to time. Like at that point, if Sasha is 9 or 10 being snuck in a situation here or a situation there, the Kings are down, they need 3-point shooting, put Sasha in the game and stuff like that. At that point, we're going to be so focused on what everybody else, or we should be so focused on what everybody else is doing for the Sacramento Kings, especially offensively, that's where I go back to Sasha's natural fit on the offensive side of the ball. If at this point, yeah, Sasha got a run with the starters. He got a 6-minute or so stretch at the beginning of the game. And then from that point, it was a little bit of staggered lineups and the starters played a little bit more. I think Fox and Sabonis both played like upwards of 24 minutes, which I was kind of surprised about. I thought they'd only be in like the 20 to 21 range. But I mean, those guys are obviously going to be mid to sometimes high 30 minutes per game guys, because Mike is not going to sacrifice their minutes if it has any negative impact on the Sacramento Kings winning basketball games. So my overall point is, regardless of if it's Duarte or if it's Vezenkov or if it's McGee or whoever, these guys are ultimately support pieces. They're support pieces to the core that's already here. And I think some people are paying attention to the core in preseason so far and going, man, they haven't looked very sharp. And I don't know if people are hitting the panic button yet necessarily on that, but it's fine to talk about Sasha this much in preseason right now. I'm pretty confident that if we're talking about Sasha this much come the regular season, something's probably wrong because the Kings are grasping at straws.
Yeah. I go ahead. No, go ahead.
Yeah, let's not grasp at straws early in the season. Let's just dead that right now. Let's not grasp at straws early in the season. What did you think of Chris Duarte? I feel like those are two guys that we were probably watching the most. I think everyone is curious about Sasha. Mike Brown's comments to you guys a couple of days ago through some fun gasoline, created a nice little inferno for us to talk about for a couple of days until he goes, yeah, Keegan's out, Sasha's going to start. It's cool. Which is funny now that I said it. Was Sasha starting at the 3 or the 4? Because he was with Harrison. So he started.
He was a 3.
Because in my head he was starting as the 4 with Keegan out. But
I would say Harrison was a 3.
Okay,
that would be my.
It was just like, well, wait, he started. Like, wait, what was he playing at the beginning? I just
3.
know the play. All I know, I'm with Matt. That first offensive play was so beautiful. I don't remember anything else that happened after that, at least on the offensive end. But Chris Duarte was another one. Part of the reason coming off of that tough Sunday game against Toronto and Vancouver didn't really, kind of go his way. Looked a little rough, from my viewpoint, looked significantly better last night.
Yeah, Duarte, I feel like, and Mike kind of did this too, but even before Mike made the comments about like sometimes Sasha will be in the second unit and then Chris Duarte would be in the third unit, like Mike indirectly made it a Duarte versus Sasha kind of battle, which those are two very different players playing completely different positions. But I get the point because I was already expecting if there's a 10th spot open, it's probably those two guys that are competing for it. Initially, I thought McGee would be more in that conversation, but McGee seems to be pretty firmly 9. Like Mike seems to believe that JaVale McGee is going to be a consistent part of this rotation. At least that's the expectation coming into camp. Of course, that could change. Mike has no problem changing things on the fly over the course of the season. But I thought a lot of people reacted overly negatively to Chris Duarte after game 1, more because of that. And I know Mike Brown's comments were after game 1, but I saw a lot of people saying, like, how is Chris Duarte out there playing with the second unit in the first half and Sasha Vezenkov's not getting into the game to the second half? I think they almost viewed Duarte, not only that he struggled in a bad game, but it was like he's standing in Vezenkov's way or he's in Vezenkov's spot. So get out of the way, Duarte. So
holding him down.
I was happy to see Duarte's bounce back performance last night because I think it hopefully reminded Sacramento Kings fans of what they have here. And ultimately what the Kings do want in both of those guys is depth. If one of them could become an everyday rotational player, like they're that good that you have to have them in the rotation every single day, all the power to Mike, and he's waiting for someone to show him that. But ultimately, these are two very different positions, two guys that have some similar skill sets in terms of shooting. Duarte is probably better on the defensive end, but he's guarding guards, and Sasha Vezenkov is not. Vezenkov's a better rebounder. So they offer you different things. So Mike Brown is going to go to different guys in different scenarios and different situations over the course of the season. So it's not really one versus the other. It's what can this guy give me and what could this guy give me? And at times, do we need that on the floor together or do we need that separate? So I really like the bounce back from Chris Duarte. I think he's a really good player. I know for a fact there are many people in the Sacramento Kings organization that are like betting on him and a belief in him that he is going to turn into something very important for them. Maybe not right away, but they have firm belief in the Domantas Sabonis effect on him in Indiana translating to Sacramento. So there's a lot of belief in Duarte in Sacramento. I think he's going to be a firm part of what the Sacramento Kings do this season, as is Vezenkov to some extent. I was very happy to see him bounce back.
Let me ask both you guys a question that, I've been thinking about. What do you guys think about what we've seen from JaVale in these first 2 games? There was a point yesterday when I was a little frustrated. I was like, he's got to pick it up a little bit. He's got to play better. And he seemingly started to play better from that moment on.
Well, he knew you wanted him to pick it up.
Telepathically.
He did.
Tell him what was going on.
Locked in.
The KC effect.
Hey, it's real.
Because I was about to question. I was about to say, hey man, I need more out of JaVale, and he ended up picking it up a little bit. But what do you guys think about JaVale in these first 2 games? It doesn't have to be a sweeping, critique one way or the other. But what you guys think about his playing time?
Matthew?
Yeah. I thought last night he was visibly frustrated. And I don't know if he was frustrated with himself, if he was frustrated with officiating, or if he was frustrated with his teammates, or all of the above. But he's stepped into this team immediately and taken on a leadership role. And I don't know if that is something that he brought to the table or something that Mike Brown and the coaching staff asked for him to bring, because it might have been James that asked him the question about his leadership. It was a really good question. And he went into this really long answer about how he's been in so many different environments. You don't want to come in and step on anybody's toes, but if you can come in and make an impact as a vocal leader, you can do that. And we saw day 1 of training camp after De'Aaron Fox is speaking, he was the one breaking the huddle and kind of preaching accountability. So I believe that if there is someone taking on part, not all, but part of the enforcer role, it's JaVale McGee. So I think he was getting a little frustrated by the defensive lapses of Sacramento. I thought he looked a lot better against the Toronto Raptors simply because he was more of a presence. But I think the Kings defensively, period, were more of a presence against the Raptors. The physicality that we've heard and talked so much about in training camp to this point was nowhere to be seen last night, like nowhere on defense. And I thought I saw it a lot against Toronto, even though it was resulting in a lot of fouls. What I like the most about JaVale McGee, back to your question, KC, is that he can block shots, of course, but he changes a lot of shots with his length inside the in the paint. Like he's very long. He's can cut off different passing lanes while also cutting off looks at the rim. And I think I saw in the chat someone asking, like, why are the Kings playing through JaVale McGee so much? I think it's because Mike is trying to establish how much he can use McGee in a Sabonis-esque type role to continue to play and run the same style of offense for the 10 to 12 minutes a night that Sabonis is not in the game. So I think McGee's a work in progress in a lot of ways, but I do think he's going to be a big help.
I didn't quite pick up on I love the way that he played on Sunday. I actually didn't hate the way that he played yesterday either.
I thought he played all right.
I'm curious, Matt. I want to follow up with something that you just said because you said he kind of taken on a leadership role, and you don't know if he brought that with him or if it was something that was asked of him. Is that something that's needed? Do you think the Kings not suggesting JaVale just come in here and be quiet like that's I don't mean it like that, but does he need to be a leader on this team?
I think as a man who has multiple, like a lot of championship experience, has been there, done that before, and specifically has been there, done that on a team where Mike Brown was at least a part of his coaching staff. I think yes, to some extent, and maybe that's to start the season. Like I'm not talking about like a Trevor Ariza or Tristan Thompson TT type impact where they're yelling and you see the videos of them yelling. It's like, wow, there's a leader. And then you get to the regular season to realize they didn't do anything. It didn't matter. Like, I think McGee's very different from that. And he's not yelling and screaming and overbearing and taking the platform away from De'Aaron or anybody else. But I clearly think that he feels that he needs to kind of establish that accountability, especially on the defensive end, establish the bar, establish the expectation, at least set the precedent for it immediately, and then maybe take a step back. So I think that aspect is necessary.
That's funny. I'm watching JaVale's plays back there. I guess I just didn't notice this last night. And maybe I'm only noticing it because Matt pointed it out. I can see what you're talking about now. By the way, Casey, we're back up. I'll explain that in a minute.
Oh.
But yeah, we back up. League Pass can go to hell. We're cooking right now.
Let's go.
I can see.
Let's go.
I can see exactly what Matt saw. I don't know why I didn't see this last night. Like, he does look like he's frustrated with, and I don't know. He's also not moving. This is something we asked about Sasha, Matt. For guys like Sasha, for guys like JaVale, and I'll throw Chris Duarte in this, guys who are newer to the squad. Is the pace of everybody else going to throw them off? Like, are they going to be able to keep up with De'Aaron, Keegan, Harrison, guys who did this last year? Because I'm just looking at this play now. For context, JaVale's not out there with De'Aaron and Domas and those guys. He's out there with. This is the second quarter. This is a second unit squad right here. But, they're not at that Sacramento Kings pace down the floor. Do you think that's going to be an issue with these newer guys in the lineup, or on the roster, I should say?
I would not accept that as an excuse. And if it is a problem, then Mike's not going to play them. So I think yes, to some extent, because the Kings play so fast that everybody and their mother comments on it whenever the Kings play them. So, and I know McGee probably felt that same thing when the Kings played Dallas a couple times last season. He was probably huffing and puffing trying to keep up, and he's an athletic big, like for his age and for his size, he can get up and down the floor pretty well. But getting up and down the floor with Luka Doncic versus getting up and down the floor with De'Aaron Fox, those are two very, very different things. So, yeah, I do think that the pace of play and the amount that the Kings wanted to hit the ground running and build off of what they had last season with so many returning players, I think that's a natural disadvantage for incoming talent. And I think JaVale is the best suited to handle that because of his experience in the league versus Sasha Vezenkov, who this is his welcome to the NBA is here's a team with high expectations, a team that likes to play fast, a new style of basketball, a completely new league. You're 28 years old, figure it out. So I do think there's definitely we talked about learning curve earlier. I think there's definitely a learning curve to the Sacramento Kings for these guys, but that's not something that can be used as any kind of excuse. If they're not ready, Mike Brown's not going to play them.
JaVale I think JaVale, this is just a theory now, watching JaVale plays over and over again. He might have just been frustrated with the way he was playing.
I think so too.
Because something that, like, we got to keep in mind, JaVale didn't play a ton last year with Dallas. Right. And, like, I'm not saying he's getting reacclimated to the NBA. I don't mean that. But if, in fact, his role is bigger with this team, bigger than we expected, and certainly bigger than it was with Dallas, he's probably trying to just get comfortable in the flow of an offense that moves a really specific way. He had like a couple of plays where he just kind of lost control of the ball. That's where I saw what Matt was talking about, like the frustration in JaVale a little bit. But then he followed that up with a couple of shots where he, little jump hook mix back at the rim, grabbed it, hit the putback. Yeah. Like, overall, like, I see what Matt was talking about, the frustration that he played with a little bit. But overall, I think he played really well last night.
Go ahead, Matt.
No, I was just going to say, too, his natural connection with Malik is no surprise because Malik had that great connection with Chemezi. Malik even established that with Alex Len a little bit. Like, if there is a guard to play with, if you're an athletic big on the Sacramento Kings, you want to play with Malik Monk. So, I already have envisioned game 2 against the Golden State Warriors, Fox and Sabonis. Well, one of the two of them are going to be on the floor at all times. At least that's what Mike Brown wants. Let's say Sabonis is out of the game. Fox and Monk are out there, and it's late first quarter, early second quarter. Kings and Warriors are neck and neck, and the crowd gets hyped up from a lob from Malik Monk to JaVale McGee. Like, that is going to be JaVale's natural role on this team and natural fit on this team. He's just like, JaVale doesn't have to change a lot of who he is to fit with this team. So that's why I think there's such a belief, at least from the front office and from the coaching staff, that JaVale is going to be, at least to start the season, a firm part of the rotation, much more firm than I thought coming into camp.
Yeah, I'm okay with that too. I want to, like I said, yesterday I was getting a little frustrated with how I felt he was playing early on, but he got it going as the game started getting along. Maybe I was just frustrated like JaVale was, and then he picked it up and he had some really good moments. So I think he can help with obviously the rim protection and things of that nature, but Yeah, I got my eye on him and how he plays. Real thing, I wanted to ask Matt this before we left. What do you think about in these first two games the amount of 3-pointers they took? I know me and Damian were talking about that earlier. I don't have as much a problem with it. I think that's part of their style. But I mean, what we come up with?
I think it
90,
was
95. Yeah, because it was 45 in the first game. 95 threes in 2 games. I'm not going to act like that isn't a lot. That is a lot. But I think that's how they play. And I'm okay with it. But what you think?
Yeah, I asked myself kind of two different questions when I was thinking about this. It's like, is a team with the Sacramento Kings and the amount of shooters that they have on their roster taking 45 to 53s a night, is that egregious? Is that like unfathomable or too much? And I thought about that just from like the no context of making, just a team putting up that many threes in the modern NBA with the amount of shooters the Kings have. No, like 45, 53s in a game is something that the Sacramento Kings, I think, could do. But the over reliance, I thought last night in particular, there were stretches where particularly De'Aaron Fox wasn't in the game, that they were shooting threes and that was their offense. And it wasn't coming off of paint touches. And that's the term that Mike Brown established very quickly. If the Kings are taking 45 to 53s a night and 35 to 40 of them are off of paint touches, I don't care if they only make 15. Like, those are good looks that you're getting in the flow of your offense. But if you're just swinging the ball around the horn and then with 5 seconds left on the shot clock, you're taking a step back three, or you're running dribble handoffs, but only on the perimeter the entire time, then yeah, you're taking away a strength of your offense. So with De'Aaron Fox, again, going back to with De'Aaron Fox playing his typical amount of playing time is 35 to 38 minutes per night, the Kings are going to be attacking the basket much more than we've seen in these first two preseason games. And that's going to result in maybe the same amount of 3-pointers, but a lot of them are probably going to be more wide open looks. And if the Kings miss them, it's like one of those things that sucks, but you can live with. And the Kings have gone through cold stretches in the second quarter, oddly enough, of both of these games. They've struggled offensively in the second quarter, which is funny because last season they were the number one team in offense in the second quarter in terms of points per game in the second quarter last season. But like the 3-point shooting, I'm not concerned about necessarily. I would be concerned if they were just chucking them up. And at times they've chucked them up, but that's been with lineups that didn't involve their best paint toucher and their more established veterans.
Last year, for context, Kings shot 37 threes a night. That was good for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6th in the league. The Warriors and the Celtics, Mavericks were the top three. Warriors shot 43 a night, Boston 42, Dallas 41, Milwaukee 40. So I could see them being up in that 40 a night range this year.
Okay.
They were 37 last year.
And what was that for that in the league, did you say?
6th.
37 got you 6th in the league. Well, I guess I'm don't turn your back on the wolf pack. I'm the one-man wolf pack. I didn't like it. It just felt like a lot. You used the perfect term, though. Maybe that's the more proper way of explaining how it fit. The over-reliance on it.
Yeah, they
the
settled.
Over-reliance on the three. That's what I felt last night. That's what I felt the last two games. Like they're just like, oh, especially because they were behind in both of them. Well, let's get back into it with threes. Oh, you missed. That's all right. We can catch back up quicker if we shoot threes. And that's probably when you were watching, like De'Aaron's not out there. There's no offense running. They're just coming down here and shooting threes.
I also think, D'Lo, that's easier, right? If you're thinking about Mike is trying to add layers and incorporate these new players and get them to learn how to play and run their offense comfortably together. The starters, for the most part, the ball has moved pretty well, especially in game one. Like the start of game one against the Toronto Raptors, the Kings offense looked like themselves with their typical starting five. The five guys that are comfortable playing together, yeah, they just pick up right where they left off for the most part. They're still rust, but they already know what they're doing. You get this bench five in where you're incorporating minimum one, sometimes two new guys. Those guys are the ones shooting a lot of threes, not the two new guys, but the bench unit has been the ones to just start chucking up threes because, okay, we're trying to learn the system. Oh, wait, what do we do here? What do we do here? Oh, crap, there's 5 seconds left in the shot clock. I got to put this up. So I think they're shooting a lot more and settling a lot more for threes right now because it's easier than working through kind of the half court offense and learning the new sets. And it's kind of been their fallback at times. It's just, oh, well, we got to put this shot up. It's a decent shot. We believe we can make it. Sometimes they do, but it's not necessarily what we're looking for, what Mike's looking for, but it's better than forcing something at the rim.
Locked On Kings podcast. Make sure you're a subscriber over there, both to the YouTube channel and the podcast. Great stuff from Matt George, as always. Of course, his great work over at ABC 10. Where are you tomorrow night?
I am at Del Oro at Rockland.
Very good.
Big SFL game.
Yeah, Rockland needs a bounce back after that loss last week. It's going to be tough. It's going to be tough.
Del Oro's lost 2 straight too, so both those teams are hungry.
Go CKM.
Well, just score this week. How about that? How about just get in the end zone this week, guys? Kick a field goal if you have to.
It's a rebuilding year.
Shout out McClatchy. Great, Matt. Thanks for making time for us, man. We really appreciate it.